I accidentally crushed a worm, and then the system announces that I fought a dragon, slapped a cockroach with a simple slap in the palm and received a divine skill, an immortal body. Even the system began to doubt whether I had my own system. I was transferred to a parallel world where you can do cultivation, but not only that my abilities are impeccable, so there is also a system that I got, completely moronic. Once, when I was sleeping, suddenly the voice of the system was heard. A new beast of the royal rank has been discovered, the awakened immortal king. No, there is no time to escape. Master, please, immediately write a will. What are you talking about again? Phew, it's just a cockroach. Well, yes, he's a little bigger, uglier than usual, but he can't resist my soul. Discovered, the master destroyed the beast of the king of the highest rank, received a divine talent, an immortal body. The received wounds regenerate at a tremendous speed. Fail, you're talking nonsense again. I was just going to scold you, as suddenly a powerful wave of energy rushed over my body. I clenched my fists. To my great surprise, I felt the presence of the zenith. In this world, the zenith is necessary in order to have the opportunity to cultivate. Seriously, the system, and you didn't lie. Yes, but if you think carefully, the only thing that changes is that I have become a little more enduring against ordinary hooligans. Yes, you still need to be quiet and slowly develop. I work as a guard in the library. My task is to guard the secret leadership in martial arts. In the following days, I plunged with my head into the ocean of knowledge. But no matter how hard I trained, my natural abilities were just shit. After a month of non-stop training, I could not master a single technique, not a single one, and this despite the fact that they were the most basic. Just when I was going to go out for a smoke, a pleasant voice was heard. The aura of the high-level beast of the emperor was heard. Save your skin. Otherwise you will not survive. Do you believe in this? Yeah, and I'm a Roman pope, right? Race, demonic sphere of the bagger of soul. Level, yellow emperor. Talent, innate intelligence. Hobby, study of human martial arts. Damn, this is really a yellow emperor. Shit, this guy is really looking for death. What an idiot I was that I believed you. A new beast has been miraculously destroyed. The rank of the yellow emperor, the reward, the divine 5 elements, and 20 years of improvement. This is the kingdom of Sintiane. In the whole city of Tizingu, they say, only 3 masters of the kingdom of Sintiane. Finally, I have something to defend myself. Wait, I just remembered that I got something, like a divine perception. All the skills in martial arts, which I read, surfaced at once in my head. Perfect mastery of the art of the sword of the light breeze. Perfect mastery of the steps of the 7 stars. This is a divine perception. In fact, this is something like a space for enlightenment. The techniques that I saw there, it is worth working them out inside, as I immediately master them and master them in perfection. Instantly. And then, a brave thought came to my mind. What if I try to create my own martial arts? With this thought, I immediately returned to the library, to focus on the skills in the art of the sword. Every read text instantly remembered model. In just a few days, I achieved full mastery in dozens of techniques of wielding a sword. After tens of thousands of repetitions, they eventually merged into one powerful one, the art of the sword of the 7 stars. I went to the outskirts of the city. With one thought, the intention of the sword bloomed, and the sword in my hand. I turned into a 10-meter light blade, and with one powerful blow it spread the air. In one moment, the top of the mountain turned out to be cut in half. This technique is called the sword that opens the heavenly gates. But I didn't have time to show off, as I suddenly felt an aura approaching me with my spine. No, 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 you need to be quieter. No, this is a stellar step. I activated it and immediately disappeared. In the following days, I sat down in the library again. What else to do? I want to become stronger too much. Here's a story with the mountain, which I cut with one blow of the sword, became viral. The whole city of Tsinghui just said that it was the swordsman, this great master, and everyone was guessing who it could be. I thought I could hide in the library for a while, but the appearance of one girl gave me a new opportunity. The presence of the Empress was discovered. Master, immediately go to the children and become her disciple. I look at this new one which has just turned 18 years old, completely lost in appearance. The Empress should not look like this. Shouldn't she be a cold and impregnable beauty? While I was hesitating, a window with data appeared. No, Elurian life expectancy, 518 years, support level maximum. Damn, it wasn't a joke. Without losing a second, I went up to talk to her. After chatting a little, I found out that this girl was really named Elurian, but she was only 18 years old. Suddenly in my head, a vision. I finally understood this system. Everything she sees is an advanced version of the future, 500 years ahead. Be it a cockroach or a spider, they become combat creatures only 500 years later. This is the power. From now on, I must treat this system with great respect. But at the moment, Elurian is just a weak snot. Compared to her, I am old and powerful. If I approach her to become her student, she will definitely accept me as an old pervert with bad intentions. But on the other hand, I cannot refuse the boss's reward. So in the following days I secretly followed her, looking for an opportunity to kneel before her. Watching her, I found that this is a shining star, in fact, a swordswoman, whose teacher is none other than the Dean of the Academy of Combat Arts. She is considered the greatest genius of her generation, until one day I followed her to the very place where I spotted the mountain. Is this girl really my fan? And then I remembered something. Who said that I should follow the scenario of the letter-to-letter system? The system told me to run, and I destroyed my opponent. Yes, and I still got a reward right. Okay, urine, I of course can't get rid of it, but won't there be more? It is more pleasant to make her beg me to become her teacher. The girl definitely has a talent, so putting on a black cloak and a straw hat, I landed with lightning right in front of her. It's time to show off a little. The residual energy from my blow with a sword still echoed in the wind. This wind is too noisy. I rummaged, and at the same moment I waved my hand. There was silence. Lujianya changed her face sharply. The aura of this sword, which even her teacher could not repeat, was dispelled by this old man with one simple gesture. Is it really? Yes, you are the very supreme master of the sword. The Empress nearby has been found. Opportunity is fleeting. The master, immediately make 3 bows and become her student. Shut up. And I see you have excellent tasks. Yes, you want to become my student. Hearing this, Lujianya shuddered. Yes, is this really incredible? The possibility of falling from heaven was a real yes. The great master she dreamed of. Day and night I wanted to take her as a student. The Empress, without even thinking, she fell to her knees in front of me. Yes, 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 exemplary student. Loudly making 3 bows. The system seemed to be frozen. A second passed before the notification appeared. Devil, the Empress bowed her knees before you. You are really a monster. Congratulations to the master on obtaining the divine sword from Ziyu. Earth-level movement techniques, anti-info, art of possession of a sword, as well as 50 years of strength. Good, good, good. Well, I'm your teacher. I'm going to clean up. What happened today should not be announced. Then I hurried to find the lonely valley. The awards from the Empress were directly first class. At the moment when I unveiled the divine sword of Ziyu, the whole universe trembled. The crystal field of the sword, enveloped by the divine radiance of Ziyu, it melted the heavens. It immediately alarmed everyone, the bumps of the city of Dizinhai. Then I absorbed 50 years of strength. The dense Trutsai formed a huge whirlwind, which floated nimbly into my body, so my improvement reached the peak of the inborn kingdom. One of my steps now covered several meters. Finally, I brought out that very technique, the highest earth-level technique which I was so eager for, the art of the sword which cuts through the heavens. At that moment, the valley was already full of people. Outside, the apple had nowhere to fall. Among them were the director of the Academy of Martial Arts and the head of the new combat police, the director of the 4th Bureau, as well as many other experts. However, inside the valley is crushing. The pressure of the sword did not allow anyone to take a step forward. Suddenly they saw a silhouette in white clothes, exposing their sword. The sound was like the roar of an enraged dragon. As soon as the sword left the scabbard, the void split open. There was only one murderous intent coming from it. It was enough for everyone who was outside to tremble with fear. The secret technique of the earth level, it really justified its reputation, I repeated. This movement is an innumerable number of times in the space of awakening. I don't know how much time has passed. I took a deep breath, letting out the stagnant air. The art of the sword which cuts through the heavens was finally mastered, and this time I decided to remain in the shadows, hiding my merits and name. I nodded, I disappeared imperceptibly. But as it should be expected, this incident again fell into all the headlines. This mountain, this valley, they even became something. It's like a miracle called the sound of a sword. The next day, as usual, I came to the library on time. Before conquering the top, the first, I will not show up for anything, and just when I was going to explore the 2nd floor of the library, a loud system notification was given. The bloody demon Luncy has been found. The extreme degree of danger, the 4th high level, run immediately. Ah, no, I mean, master, immediately send your student to fight the enemy. Damn it, this monster appears damn often. I don't care about the reward. The fact is that this mission is too troublesome, and it would be better if I, as a master, went there personally for greater reliability. Arriving at the central lake, I realized that the situation turned out to be more difficult than I expected. Dozens of guards, fully equipped, stood on the shore. There were 3 of them at the head, the only remaining masters of the city's birthed kingdom of Tsaingyue. Suddenly, a completely red monster jumped out of the water. Yesterday it was a giant, blood-sucking leech. 3 great masters of the birthed kingdom immediately rushed at it. One of them, the director of the Academy of Martial Arts, even used what he had learned the day before to perform a shortened version of the art of grabbing a sword. Unfortunately, the leech was no less than the 3 of them. After issuing a piercing whisk, it sprayed its poison everywhere. All the guards who were hit by poisonous blood died. Even the director and 2 others, the masters, were heavily wounded. At this moment, a silhouette of someone was carried over the lake, and the sword was swung by the heavenly gate. Worthy of my disciple, Lujiang, this brilliant blow made the creature a huge bloody leech, but it also drained all her vital energy. Even her sword flew to pieces when the giant rushed at her. She no longer had the strength to parry. I sighed. It looks like my personality, Zhanai, the god of the sword, is no longer hidden. The aura of my sword spreads over 30,000 li, and one single blade freezes 19 provinces. Sword appear. This was interfered with by the master. Su is, suppressed by the rage of the aura of the sword, was completely immobilized. The divine sword Ziyu pierced his body, and his huge red mascara fiercely exploded, drawing the waters of the lake behind him. His last look, full of amazement, seemed to be a sign of the end of the world, but it was not the end of the world. I saw the end of the world, I saw the end of the world, I saw the end of the world to survive. Either you recognize me as your master and obey me unconditionally, or you become a fur vest in my closet. A warrior will rather accept death than shame. From this second you are my master. Already at home, cleaning up, she begged to spare her. And after all, she usually likes to portray poltergeist so much, and as soon as people fall into a daze from fear, she sucks out a little of their spiritual energy. I did not expect that in such a shabby area the master was hiding. Suddenly I pat myself on the forehead. I just remembered one extremely important thing. Hey, the system is bad, are you pretending to be dead or what? Where are my rewards? Hey, wait a minute, Wunderkind level. The Emperor of Animals was used as a simple worker. Congratulations to the host. With the obtainment of the Tizen contemplation method, plus 20 years of improvement, this immediately raises me to the middle level of the kingdom of great masters. And this is the Tizen technique. This is a divine technique for the development of spiritual power. It looks like an all-round genius can do it. The next day I went to the mountains in Fan to try out my new techniques, but I did not expect to come across Lujian there, who was also there. At that moment the twilight was already descending. She seemed so lonely and completely helpless, and her confused spirit was constantly catching my divine stone. Something is wrong. Things are bad, very bad. She is psychotic, impulsive and weak. Maya, the disciple, will soon fall into the distortion of the TZE. This does not happen. I cannot allow my reward, that is, my disciple, to get into trouble. The great master of the sword, nicknamed the Holy Sword of the Steppes, travels with his disciple, challenging everyone on his way. This disciple of his has monstrous strength. They are invincible wherever they go, and Lujian, as the best fighter of the city of Tsaingyue, must fight the disciple of the Holy Sword. She knows that she will not be able to win, but the honor of the city of Tsaingyue is at stake, because of which she was under huge pressure. Damn, life is not sugar anyway. But since your teacher is here, you have no one to be afraid of. With these words, I pointed my finger directly between her eyebrows. The unbridled flow of my knowledge of the path of the sword instantly transferred to her ocean of consciousness. Compared to the great power of the earthly level, this is a trifle, a mere trifle. But for Lujian, who remained in Bazord, this was enough. She knelt down and bowed to the ground, 3 times loudly hitting her forehead against the floor in front of me. Then Lujian began to speak again. Teacher, you must beware of this great master. The intention of the Holy Sword Yuhan, who sent me to Tsaingyue, is to make you provoke him. Me provoke him? Yes, what do I have? A chest with treasures with me. Why are you so eager to challenge me? But if you think so, in any case, no one has ever seen me. It will be enough to just pretend that I, as if by chance, turned out to be on a business trip, and the case is in the hat. Thinking about this, I even quit training and quickly got out of this mess. The next few days I went to the 2nd floor of the library, with the help of the divine stone of the god. It became easier and easier to master. I was just going to open the application with short videos to relax a little, but the first video I came across was the news that the Holy Sword of the Steppes and his disciple arrived in Tsaingyue. The saint's name is Tanba, and his disciple is Sioha. Having told myself that this was none of my business, I was already going to swipe further. Suddenly, a system message popped up in my head. An expert of the earthly level has been found. The powerful demon of Sioha's sword has appeared. This time even the Empress will not withstand it. Damn. Carrier, run immediately. Damn it, earthly level, but if you look at it that way, it instantly cheered me up. So I figured something out here. If I let all my trump cards in, I will overwhelm his master, the Holy Sword. It won't be that difficult. But then a brilliant thought dawned on me. Don't I still have Lujiang? She's a pro, she can fight instead of me. No, besides, it is not said that he needs to be killed. Enough of a simple defeat. Thinking about it, I hurried to the arena. At that moment, it was full to the brim. The eyes of the whole world were glued to this event. Sioha, I bet on the guy, Sioha, who was on the stage. A card with data immediately appeared in front of me. Name, Sioha. Age 517 years. Level 10. Enzyme stage, initial stage. Perfect. I can't wait to get a trophy from this little one. Lujiang and Sioha simultaneously apply their crown techniques. In one moment, their blades collide dozens of times, their deadly auras combined with masterful mastery. Blades at one moment revealed the pinnacle of the art of the sword. The battle on the stage turned into a fight to the death. After a dozen exchanges of blows, both fighters were still on equal terms. And both were already completely covered with wounds. From a powerful explosion, both opponents fly back. The young man begins to laugh madly. He roars into the sky and finally surrenders to the darkness. The aura coming from his sword becomes incredibly fierce. He is preparing to apply the technique. The secret technique of the master of the sword, Yuanjian Gizong. Sword, opening the heavenly gates. My last days of training did not go in vain. Lujiang's sword falls down like a fiery skyscraper. The beam of her blade unstoppably rushes straight into Sioha's face. A deafening explosion is heard. The dust from the blow covers the entire arena for the fights instantly. Only a few minutes later, when the silhouettes of the two fighters became visible again, it was possible to see Sioha, standing on one knee with a piece of the sword in his hand. His face was pale and he coughed blood without stopping. And Lujiang proudly stood on his feet, squeezing his sword in his hand. The blade of his sword was directed directly between Sioha's eyebrows. The victory was predetermined. A deafening roar was heard from the stands. The whole arena chanted the name of Lujiang. As for me, I took a more comfortable pose, lying down in the chair. And there is nothing to think about. This stupid system, it should be, was so scared that it hung up again. Only after a long time did I hear the sound of a notification, so trembling. Master, you didn't even intervene personally, but you have already defeated the sword demon from the kingdom of Dijin. There were too many people there, so I bow to you here. Reward 100 years of improvement, allowing you to reach the very peaks of the kingdom of the great master. Reward, divine technique will come from Dijin. And that Yuanjian Danzin, damn it, I broke the bush again. The goal was achieved, so I did not delay. I quickly found a secluded place to start mastering these divine rewards. In a month I advanced from the initial stage to the peak of the kingdom of the great master. But when I think about the monsters from the kingdoms of Dijin and above, with which I have to face, I cannot but think about the fact that the path of improvement is still long and thorny. But most of all I am intrigued by this famous Yuanjian Danzin. In this world, you can't find alchemists day and night. If I combine this with the space of awakening, my strength will simply explode. And after all, the truth is that in the following days, I went with my head into alchemy in the space of awakening. Damn it, a real headache. And just when I thought I would go to collect some grass for training, a notification about a live broadcast on my phone aroused my curiosity. After all, Tamba, the stepmaster of the sword, in the world of martial arts is considered by no one else but the god of the sword, Shanai. I have already received my reward, so I have no desire to interfere in this, but the insults of this old man are simply unbearable. And besides, it seems that this has been going on for several days. Why can't I get rid of it? 3. Suddenly, a familiar silhouette flashed by. To your actions, your excellence. A real lesson for the younger generation. My teacher will not even be worthy of the look of such a joke as you. These two phrases of Liu Ruyan were crushingly cruel. 3. Tamba, who was waiting for an eternity, was already at the limit. And now some girl is humiliating him, his face instantly blackened with rage. The next second his sword rushed to Liu Ruyan, cutting through the air with the force of the collapsing mountains. Liu Ruyan immediately began to cough blood from her mouth and nose. This girl is very devoted, but she lacks a little reason. At the very moment when the shock wave was supposed to kill her, the space suddenly began to distort, creating a huge gap. The silhouette, dressed in black, crossed the void and appeared a few centimeters from Li Ruyan. This old rascal dares to attack my source of resources. He really signed a death sentence for himself. At that moment, as he noticed me, Tamba's eyes lit up with almost insane fighting zeal. The collision of their blades caused an instant weather anomaly. The sword issued a piercing gull. The divine sword of Ziyu, enveloped in a blinding glow, appeared in my hand. I'm in a hurry, the winner will be determined by one single blow. I bent my knees, taking a stand. In a half-sitting position, I turned to the side, accumulating strength, the hand on the Ziyu's handle, the technique of the heavenly cutter. The blow was exhausted. At one moment, an endless murderous intention condensed in it. Tamba's face was distorted, and he released his technique refined to perfection, a merging of 10,000 blades. A deadly aura flowed out of his body. Countless shadows of blades circled in a whirlwind, terrifying, like black clouds that covered the sky. The movement of one and the immobility of the other created an amazing contrast. Tamba folded his two fingers, and the flow of the energy of the sword flashed like a cataclysm, crushing the sky and the sea. My hand clung to the handle with a dead grip. The dazzling light of the sword flashed, forcing the mountains and rivers to be silenced. Two raging waves of energy, the sword collided with a deafening rumble, like a thunderbolt. At one moment, the dazzling light flashed, and the picture from the camera on the air became absolutely white. The spectators were stunned. A few seconds later, they seemed to be eternal. The radiance of the blade finally dissipated. People were finally able to see the battlefield. The mountain ridge lay in ruins, and the valley was leveled with the ground. And I was still standing between heaven and earth. Ziyu, my divine sword, joyfully vibrated. Tamba also soared in the air, but the blood flowed from the corner of his lips, and the face was deadly pale. As for the sword in his hand, it turned into dust, leaving not even a handle. I lost. Tamba's eyes dimmed, when he allowed this dust to seep through his fingers and spread in the wind. Their forces were simply incomparable. It was an absolute humiliation at all levels, and even the smallest reward for this. There is really no point in this fight. I was about to leave, but then this old man, you insulted me all day long. 3. Do not dare to lose your spirit now when I leave. Heh. My residual image faded, slowly turning into star dust, before disappearing between heaven and earth. The expression of Tamba's face, which had just begun to relax, froze. Klon, too. Sword of Tsaingyue, and the very body of the god of the sword did not even move. 3. I have used the knowledge of my whole life, but I could not overcome even one of these clones. Confusion, horror, shame, all kinds of chaotic thoughts rushed through his head. Then his head spun, the world swam in front of his eyes, anger struck in the heart, and he coughed up blood. God of the sword of Tsaingyue. 3. So that means, who am I in your eyes? Nonsense. I thought of the holy sword and with a broken heart, closed my eyes, immediately collapsing without consciousness. Tamba's fighting spirit was just broken. I opened my eyes in the library cabinet and lazily yawned. After this incident, the world of Enfinga was renamed into the Valley of the God of the Sword, to forever capture the glory of the God of the Sword from Tsaingyue. And just when I thought that this story was finally over, and I could calmly study alchemy, a systematic notification sounded in my mind. Oh, you bastard, you brought the holy sword to death from anger. 2. Hatred has been discovered, irreconcilable and deadly hatred of the sword demon towards the bearer. Immediately send your student to destroy the sword demon. What? This old grunt is so petty. Stop, wait a second. It seems that I have already seen a similar scenario somewhere. Damn, this sword demon is also called Cha. Do not humiliate a poor young man, because you are still trying to pair me with this old cliché. The day I return to Tizenai, all its inhabitants will die. I heard everything perfectly from the roof. Well said, as long as you don't come back. At the same moment, the ice cold ran through the body of Suwa, starting from the legs. Danger, his instinct for self-preservation immediately erupted. The icy aura of the sword, like a light breeze, touched his face and cut his throat. The future sword demon from the clan of demons of the imperial rank. A murder has been found. The sword demon with one blow. A reward secret guidance brought, plus 50 years of power. So far, I have ignored the announcement of the chatty system, deciding that now it is more important to bury this guy and the old turtle first. When I touched Suwa's body, a strange fluctuation of primordial energy began to come out of his right hand. Damn it, these are 2-star swords. I suppose the boy and the old man had one each. If you think about it, the holy sword must have accumulated a whole state for its life. My smile was involuntarily stretched to the very back of my head. Thank you for this gift of nature. Having cleared all the traces inside, I took the old man and the young man to the shore. With just one thought, I incinerated them both, since you love it so much. Tzeni, so stay here as a bait. Having returned home and absorbed those 50 years of power, my level of development has also reached the level of a great master, the very peak of this kingdom. This completely stunned the nine-tailed forest. Is he a genius? And I also learned about the rank of the highest great master, the Supreme Honorable. But in order to reach the rank of the Supreme, you need to comprehend the power of the laws, and until then you can be considered only semi-supreme. But I'm not in a hurry. With my current combat power, this is more than enough to establish my own order in this world. Suddenly, I remembered that I also got 2-star marks. Having opened them, I could only exclaim, no way, I was wrong. There were mountains of all kinds of delicacies and all kinds of precious medicinal herbs, as well as an astronomical number of guides along the path of the sword, including the return of 10,000 blades. These students from the geometry were real Santa Claus. Meanwhile, thanks to my hard work, I began to comprehend the secrets of the path of alchemy. But to create a pill, you need earth or animal fire. Earthly fire is controlled by the government. I didn't want to get into trouble, so after thinking about it, I decided to go to the mountains, to the mandalas. In this mountain chain is the oldest forest in this region. From everywhere there was a roar of fierce animals, but it was just a small roar which seemed to be a Sayab, and we, man and beast, all dared on our way, straight to the heart of the dark valley, where a flock of wild wolves was located. Their leader was a demon wolf of scarlet flame, whose body was completely engulfed by fire. In the name of sustainable development, I decided to strike a point blow to the near horizon. At that moment, when I activated the technique, I appeared right in front of the King of Wolves. Before he managed to react, I had already crushed his heart. Your obedient servant grabbed the core of the beast and immediately gave a jerk. When the dust lay down, the wolf understood that their leader completely threw off his hooves, and they did not even see the face of the killer. When I was already going to return home, my acute spiritual perception caught the familiar hesitation. What could Yuri Yan do here? It turns out, after our last fight, she realized that her technique, possession of a sword, was not enough for the thirst for murder, so she went to train in the primeval forest. At that very moment, she was in the midst of a fierce battle with a terrifying mountain monster, when she was already going to release her sword blow, opening the heavenly gates. The monster suddenly disappeared. He appeared behind her back in a split second and crushed his claw on the Horian. Everything darkened in her eyes and she collapsed to the ground, and just when she was on her hair, a purple aura of the sword flashed from death. It pierced the forehead of the mountain tiger right in the center. I don't know who was luckier, her or me, but in any case, I saved my life again from the source of resources. Then I took the insensitive Horian to the side of the road. Seeing that there was nothing serious with her, I decided to wash myself. But what? I did not expect it at all, so much so that this traitor Sayabei threw a knife at my back. He left a wooden plate for the Horian, on which it was clearly engraved T. Shingyuai, the library. Guard. Today, taking advantage of the fact that she had not yet woken up, I ran away from all legs. After a few moments, I was already at home. The beastly fire of the Scarlet Knight demonic wolf was extremely fierce, but under the influence of my liberated yuan, it quickly turned into a burning energy that I absorbed. I took out a pre-prepared alchemical cauldron. Everything was ready. Let's start the rafting. With one hand, I controlled the power of the flame, and at another time from time to time, I added healing herbs. Half an hour later, the rich herbal aroma spread. 3 pills, not a bad catch. I took a pill of spiritual condensation, capable of strengthening the spirit, and put it in Sayabei's mouth. Spiritual energy flowed and instantly filled his consciousness. Master, a high-quality pill. To see him tremble and beat in convulsions with his whole body, it was a truly pathetic sight. The next day I, as usual, went to the library, but what I did not expect, so it is that this girl will already be there, and judging by the way she looked at me, it looks like she came for me. What connection do you have with the god of the sword from Tsingyuai? Caught in this sudden interrogation, I didn't even know what to say. Strange, is this fool a disciple? I learned something. It looks like yesterday, before I lost consciousness, she felt that I saved her master, and when she woke up, she saw a wooden tablet, which Sayabei secretly threw up. The keeper of this library, it's just me. No, for sure, she came for me. No, it's not time to reveal your personality yet. Beauty, what did you find? If I had some connection with the god of the sword, do you think I would be the keeper here? Oh, I'm sorry. Seeing Sayabei writhing next to me with laughter, my male sixth sense immediately hinted that something was wrong with this story. Oh, well, wait, I'll get to you. After the departure of this fury, I decided to look for books on alchemy to continue my research, but found that compared to the treatise on the pills of the mysterious heavens, everything else is just a tool for beginners. To think only I became the best alchemist, not wanting it myself. Well, okay, today I'm just going to beat backlash all day. After work, I was going to go to the market. Yes, but I, the great god of the sword Cyingue, was attacked on my way. When I had almost reached the market, turning into some alley, a sharp spiritual blade fell on me. What audacity, to swing a sword in front of a great master. But at that moment, when I swung this cluster of energy of the sword with one swing of my hand, I felt something wrong. And I was not mistaken. The next second a Julian appeared in front of me. I am a disciple of the god of the sword. And you, he is my revered teacher. They sent me to find you. Okay, enough secrets. In fact, I'm your older brother at school. Julian, glad to meet you, older brother. As the teacher told you to find me, I put myself on a wooden tablet in the hand of Julian, and then looked at Sayab, who was already all covered with a cold coat. Oh, you're holding me for a fool, aren't you? Sending Julian, I didn't even go to the market, but immediately returned home. In one moment, the evil darkness enveloped the entire room. And Julian, who was already all covered with a cold coat, I put myself on a wooden tablet in the hand of Julian, and then looked at Sayab, who was already all covered with a cold coat. I put myself on a wooden tablet in the hand of Julian, and then in one moment, the evil darkness enveloped the entire room. And Julian, who was already all covered with a cold coat, I put myself on a wooden tablet in the hand of Julian, and then Julian, who was already all covered with a cold coat. A wave of life, and even has a divine effect resurrection of the dead and heal broken limbs. Should be this is the most famous force of the law. I'm even afraid to imagine how terrifying should be a real master of the highest kingdom the next few days. I spent in search of how to deceive this damn system, and knock out more reward until one guy appeared that day entering the library. I was surprised to find that I have a new partner, but at that moment when I saw him in my head, a piercing systemic alarm was sounded. A great master of the formation was found licking hello, and how are all the big bumps come across such a type as you fall out of here alive, no licking life expectancy. 519 years level of the beginning of the earthly honorable kingdom. Hello, my name is Licking, I hope we get along, yeah, hello Licking. And I'm then a Pope Roman, so what, well, okay. When you're away from home everyone wears masks. Yes, I didn't undress him instead. I ended the conversation with enthusiasm, and suddenly one thought came to my mind. Did I a few days ago did not receive a real skill, the right voice, so if I call him to a duel with the use of the formation, and smash it into dust and dust, can I not tear off a huge cush reward? Yes. With this thought, I hurried to find a corner to study the magical formations. But my powerful mental, the force was constantly circling around the Licking, and as I expected, he began to grumble at this stupid family rule and transfer knowledge only to men, not to women. But I don't give a damn about this lady this time. I have to whatever it takes to get a diagram of Wang Shen, yes. A diagram of Wang Shen that before this girl, more precisely this brother in general. It's not in vain that I came here after this. I devoted a large part of my energy to diligent study of magical formations, combining it with an illusory kingdom of awakening and a precious treasure left by the old swordsman. My skill on the right path grew by 7 miles. I almost reached the threshold of the master's level, but in the eyes of the Licking I became a simple idler who only did what I meditated with my eyes closed. Oh, you snot. I only hope that you will not crawl to me to beg for mercy when I deal with you in the end. One day, when our boss was on the move, a thin line from the magic formation reached the limits of my spiritual consciousness. Licking is going to act the formation that he established is a powerful illusory formation. Probably he is waiting for the night to strike first to neutralize the guard, and then to steal. That's just why the waves of the formation are directed at me. It looks like this girl can't stand me, the great tyrant Flan. She wants to first test the power of her formation on me. The space around me instantly turned into a terrifying hellish scene. Great, so you still dare to attack first. I immediately solved these small tricks. I used a divine stone to find Licking outside the limits of the formation, and while he was still in shock, I made a simple gesture with my hand. The wave of divine consciousness swung forward, and the illusion flew into pieces like glass. Licking from surprise almost dropped his jaw on the floor. This loser, how he managed to destroy my formation. And he also realized that I told him, reading on my lips, if you are weak, train. You do not know how to lose, do not play, and my God. The other one made him lose the cold blood of the great master of the formation. With just a gesture of the hand, day congratulations to the other, you got a fragment of the Law of Thunder, as well as a diagram of the construction of 7 stars of the Great Bear. This is what kind of game you are trying to achieve. Listen to the dove whose cow would groan, and yours would be silent after he fired at me as if from a machine gun from my reproaches. The king lost the gift of speech, except for games. Games, he could not even connect 2 words in the evening. The king, coming to his senses, made his way to the 3rd floor of the library, but he did not foresee that I had already taken up a position, and for some time I was waiting for him in front of the diagram of 10,000 formations. I had already managed to study its vulnerable point. A star of the Great Bear is a thing, yes, I'd better look at the pig Pepper. Even a dog doesn't want a gift 3 hours later. The king finally went around countless traps and stood in front of the diagram of the formation. It was visible how his eyes shone and he grumbles under his nose. Wait, I will master the diagram of 10,000 formations, and you will see how I will train you a bad guard after this case. The king was quiet for a while that day. As usual, I had breakfast in front of the library, and while I was thinking about how else to pinch this great master of formations, I was approached by a lying young man with a band in his hands. The eldest is a breakfast that I prepared for you. I did not have time to remember how the king flew up, grabbed her by the hand and rolled herself. I used a spiritual stone to eavesdrop on their conversation and was just stunned by what I heard. It turns out that this king is a relative of Liu Zhuyan Ruyan. This guard is not a good person. Stay away from him. Leroyan was confused by this sudden warning. Seeing that she does not believe him, the licking added he only does that he beats the ambition, and nevertheless the other day he destroyed my formation with one gesture. He is definitely a scoundrel with hidden motives. Leroyan lit up. The teacher probably wants me to understand the warehouse of the mind of the elder. He is not arrogant and impatient. He achieves enlightenment in tranquility. Later Licking saw how we were chatting with Leroyan and laughing together. This led him to rage. Today they went. I call you. The rules are simple. If I win you will forever get out of the city of Xiangyue. If you win I will go to the Nits, and I will recognize you as my teacher right now. Where did such confidence come from? That bravery has gained, however. A scoundrel who wants to become my student is another great opportunity to get a large chest with treasures, agreed he himself, asked upon arriving at the outskirts of the city. Licking activated the formation with a movement of his hands that he prepared in an ambush. He came well prepared. It seems the rules of the duel were very simple. It was only necessary to find out whose magical formation has more destructive power at the moment, and the spiritual energy around me exploded, and with the tips of my fingers I drew several circles in the air. A huge bloody red expelling formation instantly caught Licking in a trap after a deafening explosion. His pathetic formation flew into pieces as if it were made of papier-mâché. This series of events completely turned his idea of reality over 1 2 what is happening 3 so where is my formation? Seeing that he is in complete shock, I did not want to waste time talking here. Hold your word, a student. He could not imagine that he could lose when Licking came to his senses. He was more disgusted than if he swallowed poison. This useless person named Zhuyan and his younger sister call me uncle, but I have to call him a teacher. This is the same world turned upside down. In the end, the face of a Licking became dead pale. The teacher barely heard though with his clenched teeth. The great master of formation himself calls you a teacher. Sir, you are really a deity. You have received a shard of the law in the path of formation. On my face there was a frown, which was more difficult to contain than a return from hell. Or the king, seeing my self-contentment, issued a desperate scream. Without even turning around, he ran away from this place of shame. Returning home, I immediately took out a shard of the laws. With this thing, I will become the key to the revival. Sinchen, which Horshan lades, encompassing all his transformations. King Wei, yes, with the help of 2, and I will be able to deploy the full formation. 7 stars of the Great Bear, using the heavenly eye as a guide, and the stars as a completion before the divine punishment of the formation of the 7th level. In the end, even the master of the highest kingdom will not have a single chance to survive. Genius, a new trump card in the sleeve for survival. The next day when I came to the library, I thought that Li King, out of shame and anger, would resign, but he was not only there, but also together with the director. I listened to the fragments of their conversation. The one who delivers problems to me seems to have great connections. His father, my director, and that's how the time flew unnoticed. During the afternoon nap, I suddenly felt as if someone patted me on the hand. I turned around and heard how King called me a mentor with a very sweet voice. It turned out that last night he was doing all the time, and Relina with her persistence. As a result, he confessed to her that I was her older brother at school, but I, the side of the sword, on the other hand, did not say a word about officially accepting him as a student. And then he began his performance. A mentor, since I joined your school, shouldn't I meet the great master? He is not here, I do not know where he is, and I have no idea when he will return. My sharp answer again left King speechless. It was at this moment that Relina came to ask me for advice on the art of wielding a sword. I smiled. It was time to introduce my younger student to my new student. King, go, say hello to your aunt at school. King immediately wanted to fall through the ground. He, who only 2 days ago told everyone to stay away from me, and now he has become my student. It's just off the wall. It completely knocked Relina off her feet. What's going on, King? Weren't you in a bad relationship with our senior? And oh, younger brother King, he wanted to join us so much. His feelings were so sincere, so deep. He was crying with burning tears, so I, like his senior, just couldn't force myself to refuse him. What nonsense, Aurelian, let me explain. Seeing that he was only aggravating his situation, Aurelian made such an expression on his face, which said, "It's all right, don't explain anything, I understand everything." King made attempts, feeling that there was nothing more to expect from life. In the following days, I dedicated myself to the comprehension of the power of the laws. At such a pace, I won't need a lot of time to reach the highest level. Suddenly, there was a news announcement. It attracted my curiosity. The news was about the recent riots caused by evil spellbinders. Citizens are advised to stay at home if possible. Lately, I have clearly felt how everything in the air is bending. Not a single day is a day. In addition, there is a great tide in this world every 20 years. It seems that great shocks are brewing in Tsinghua. While I was thinking whether I would have to interfere with my sect, a dark, icy figure appeared at the entrance to the library. An evil star stone was clamped in his palm. He continuously poured demonic energy into it. This thing is about to explode. At that very moment, when he had finished his business and was going to throw it, a hand arose from the void and closed right on the star stone. And you, my friend, you are already a dead man. If you try to bite my piece of bread, then I will not tolerate it. The stone immediately crumbled to dust. The next moment, my hand clung to this man in the throat. With one sharp movement, I immediately beheaded him. My divine consciousness plunged into the depths of his spiritual memory, and from there a stream of information flowed. I instantly understood everything underlying this case. Having gotten rid of the body, I immediately climbed to the second floor to find Lakinga. Your father is in great danger tonight. If something happens, immediately activate this spiritual trail. Thank you, teacher. Squeezing the original stone, he hurried home, all thanks to the memories that I had just extracted from the dot model. I learned that these warriors were not only the avant-garde, but also the precursors to the arrival of the tide. Their plan was to destroy all the defense that could interfere with the tide, and the keeper Lidiomi, capable of managing the great defensive formation of the city, was their goal. As expected, that night, a bloody conflict broke out in the family residence, and only with the approach of dawn, the bright and pure glow put an end to this fierce battle. At that moment, the quarter of luxurious villas turned into a river of blood, sown with torn limbs and dismembered bodies, and my stone of spiritual formation became a real rebirth for women from the family of Lidiomi. When I arrived at the library, King was already waiting for me respectfully. Master, here is a small sign of attention from my father. Please accept it. While supercars and mansions are now mine, as soon as the tide of the situation approached. In Tsinghua, everything became more and more uncontrollable, and the authorities had to send a powerful reinforcement, so I accepted my first guest since I moved to the mansion. Lerjin, with a serious look. Elder brother, have you heard of the tide? The tide is divided into 3 levels: ordinary, complex, and bottomless. 20 years ago, the tide of the ordinary level has already taken countless lives. But according to completely secret information, this time it will not be limited to Tsinghua. It will be an uprising on the scale of the entire country, and the level of danger will reach the peak of the bottomless level. Even with reinforcements, our chances of victory are insignificant. The higher leadership of Tsinghua are cornered. They have prepared for the worst, the destruction of the city and the death of its inhabitants. Please, elder brother, convey this message. The city of Tsinghua is in danger, we beg you. Teacher, I ask you to interrupt the solitude in order to save the people of Tsinghua from this disaster. I have lived here for so long. It would be a lie to say that I did not attach myself to this place. But in front of the army of hundreds of thousands of creatures, stars, I am not even sure that I will be able to stop them. Do not worry. Ruzin, I will contact the teacher as soon as possible. After her departure, I took a deep breath. It was almost time for Ruzin to leave, as I felt 2 sinister auras following me. They must be from the same group as those who blew up the library. In an instant, a scarlet blade flashed before they had time to react. Their heads were already rolling on the ground. After scanning their souls, I learned that these people were all from the sinister cult called the Cult of Sheisheng, and that their current main goal is no one other than me, the god of the sword from Tsinghua. Yes, but these 2 were too low level. They didn't know anything else. It doesn't matter, I'll figure it out myself. Meanwhile, the magical energy in the air became more and more chaotic. The mutant beasts that fell under its influence became especially ferocious. Disorder caused by them was raging throughout the city. That day, as usual, I went out to assess the situation, but I barely returned home, as I felt an incredibly cruel aura, and I found that my villa was completely destroyed. Real chaos. The walls and floor were covered with deep traces of claws, and Zyrobai disappeared. Damn, even Zyrobai could not resist. Thanks to our spiritual connection, I immediately determined his location. At that moment, the farmer's market looked like a bombed zone. Zairobai took his nine-tailed form. His eyes were filled with blood, and he crushed everything on his way. Asterix, Asterix, just at the moment when his sharp-toothed mouth was about to close on the neck of one citizen. The seventh wolf struck, slap slap, a sharp blow to the ass. Zairobai's gaze instantly cleared up. He came to his senses for a moment, before plunging into rage again. The seventh wolf is in my hand. Each blow was critical. After several blows, I managed to return the human form to Zairobai, who rolled his eyes and collapsed on the ground unconsciously. Oh youth, he can fall asleep anywhere. Then I applied the law of gaze. He instantly wrapped the wounded civilians, growing broken bones and restoring the flesh. In an instant, all their wounds healed. Returning home, I carefully examined Zairobai. The situation was very, very bad. His sea of consciousness was in complete chaos. If I hadn't intervened, he would have soon turned into a bloodthirsty beast. With this thought, I immediately got a pill of spiritual condensation. Thanks to my workshop healing massage, Zairobai quickly regained consciousness. But what I did not expect in any way, so it is that there was no good without evil. Zairobai was on the verge of a breakthrough to a new level. His true face exploded, and in an instant, a fourth tail grew next to the other three. The landlord's familiar has moved from the royal level to the imperial one. Needless to add, the owner is just great. Reward 1 copy of the genuine tractate on forging. Good, good, good. So you know that my situation is tense, and decided to give me a gift for strengthening. Yes, at least for the systems you have at least a drop of humanity. Having laid Zairobai down, I hurried to plunge into the illusion of awakening to study this genuine tractate on forging. This, without a doubt, was a legendary treasure that contained all kinds of forging methods of divine weaponry. If I thought about it, I could forge another divine sword of Zairo's. However, for the creation of high-level weapons, high-level materials are also needed. In my current position, I can only dream about it. Wait, if you think about the nine-tailed fox. In the Chronicles of Craftsmen, it is said that each part of the nine-tailed fox is a treasure, even the smallest. The hair is of great value. As I thought, so I did. Seeing that Zairobai was sleeping soundly, I got to the tip of her tail and I followed step by step all the stages described in the tractate. The true path of forging. At the same time, I continuously poured spiritual energy into the white hair. Mysterious runes began to appear on its surface, turning into a myriad of steel needles with icy shine. And finally, I added a mechanism, secret weapon, exquisite and unique. And now, it is officially ready. So, let me call this thing Bayuli needles, although they can easily eliminate the master of the kingdom. Sinshin, in my eyes, this is no more than a toy. Only at that moment, I could not imagine that these needles would become Bayuli. My main trump card in the fight against Chacho. In the following days, Zhanarei, without laying a hand, built a defensive fortress from scratch. The gloomy atmosphere enveloped the hearts of people. But a deafening rumor, which appeared from nowhere, literally set the whole city on fire. The god of the sword, Zhanarei, has returned, and now he is in the valley of the god of the sword. I was just stunned. How could I not know about it? But having seen this silhouette in a black mantle in a live broadcast, it cannot be said that he is a little like me. He is my cast copy. Damn it, I'm an imposter now. All the inhabitants of the city, as if maddened, rushed to the valley of the god of the sword. Even people from Sinuyi, the city guard and the Academy of Martial Arts, everyone gathered there, wishing to see the return of the god of the sword. This imposter did not even try to hide his crushing aura. His power aura of the sword was raging. He rushed out, as if he was putting it on display. The first to feel that something was wrong was Huaren. The teacher returned to Zhanarei. How did it happen that we, his students, did not hear anything about it? In addition, the aura of this person is completely unlike the teacher's aura. The teacher is a great sage hermit who lives far from the world, with an extreme aura, and this one in the sky is showing off like the last scoundrel, while more and more people were gathering on earth. The god of the sword's lie is loud. He exclaimed, I saved Zhanarei so many times, it's time to get on the accounts. From these words, the crowd below roared, ready to give him everything they had. Everyone is silent. Suddenly, smiling coldly, Huaren pointed out with a long sword in his hand, a blade on a man in black. You are not the god of the sword. Seeing this, I understood everything. Thank you, this must be the Shaikaprike Vasni from the cult of the god beast. They want to use the pressure of the crowd to make me appear. Following Huaren, Li King and his father, the director and dean of the Academy of Martial Arts, also stepped forward. In their eyes, the honor of the god of the sword could not be stained. Seeing this, the man in the black cloak stopped breaking the comedy, and the furious aura of the sword fell on them, the whole valley instantly. The god of the sword Yanai immediately crawling to me, ordinary people below with difficulty withstood this crushing pressure. Blood immediately flowed from their mouths and noses, so his original plan was to take all the wealth and then arrange a bloody purge. Will the god of the sword come today or not? An inglorious end was waiting for him. A man in a black cloak waved his hand, and his spiritual energy spread for thousands of kilometers, creating a terrifying zone of gravity. This heavenly power fell down, threatening to crush everything alive in the valley alive. People below resisted with all their might. But in the eyes of the great master, the expert of the kingdom, the scythes were nothing more than grass. Screams and cries filled the entire valley, the hell on earth. The man in black enjoyed the screams in the valley, when with the edge of his eyes he suddenly noticed a purple glow on the far horizon. And here is the garbage that I was waiting for. The man in black froze for a moment, did not have time to come to his senses, as the purple glow overcame thousands of kilometers and was right in front of him. And his heart froze. It was too late to react. The divine sword Iu, bearing the rage of Milton, at that moment pierced his chest. At that very moment, another silhouette in a black mantle appeared and pulled out a blade that plunged into his chest. The black mantle was the same, but the spiritual pressure that he exhausted was many times greater than the previous one. The tension in the valley dissipated, and even the whistle of the wind below suddenly stopped. The people, whose faces were filled with tears, felt as if they had seen the very god in flesh. Here he is, the true master of the sword. At that moment I looked at the man in black, lying on the ground with a serious look. Only at that moment, when the divine sword Iu pierced his heart, I felt a strange rune. The next moment the rune exploded with a flash of light, and the man in black, as if waking up from a nightmare, completely restored his vital forces, the technique of mortal substitution. He caught the intention, the murderous intention that was boiling in my gaze. When the blade of the divine sword Iu was already ready to fall on his skull, the man in black roared into the distant sky, "My lord, save me." Suddenly, the space in front of him cracked and exploded. The old man came out of the rupture in a golden mask. With one wave of his hand, he turned this deadly sword into dust. In his aura, I felt the power of the laws. He, without a doubt, was of the same rank as I am, both at the level of the floor of the Almighty. Without hesitation, I spread my hands and called the ancient diagram of formation. Raising my hand to the stars, I drew several mystical signs. The celestial vault, my canvas; 7 stars, my basis. The constellation is large. The bear instantly appeared in the sky. "You dare to use the formation in front of me? Yes, you are looking for death. The celestial formation of 7 stars is complete." "Are you looking for death?" "Yes, endless divine power from heaven." It floated down, and tens of thousands of starry rays, turning into sharp swords, in one moment absorbed the spiritual body of the old man. When the old man again appeared before everyone, his body was covered with countless bleeding wounds, as if he were pierced by 1,000 arrows. Seeing this apocalyptic spectacle, the man in black was soaked with fear. And his master, who a moment ago was so arrogant, had just been so easily defeated. The old man in the mask collapsed on his knees. Loudly growling the name of Alton, he suddenly raised his head. In his gaze there was a fierce and desperate shine, after an insane laughter. His skin cracked and blood gushed from the pores. "For the divine cult, I damn it, will die without regret. This old freak is going to self-destruct." He aimed at me. 2 blinding lightning bolts, one red, the other purple, rushed straight to the clouds. In the valley, Ligiomi watched the scene unfolding at the top. He immediately understood everything. The god of the sword, of course, could evade this suicidal technique, but if you allow this madman to get to the city, then the whole city of Tsinghua would be destroyed. But in front of the field is the banner of the half-superior. I'm afraid, even the god of the sword, he did not finish the phrase. The silence was redder than any words. Weeping and crying were heard from the crowd. At that moment, the face of Hurriant was also filled with tears. She rushed forward, wishing to rush to save her teacher. But it was too late. The red and purple lightning bolts collided with the deafening rumble, forming in the clouds a semblance of a mortal cell. The rumble, the deafening roar, was like the onset of an apocalypse. Even at a distance of 10,000 meters, the shock wave destroyed entire quarters. The next moment, the world sank into the white light. There was a dead silence, not a single sound. Later it seemed, a whole eternity. The white light finally dissipated under the alarmed looks of the crowd. "This is the god of the sword, he won." Someone shouted in the crowd. At that very moment, the crowd exploded with deafening shouts of rejoicing. Although my clothes were in patches, I still stood with a sword in my hand, over the clouds. The crisis was over, and I did not linger. I waved my hand and left this battlefield. Not that I was showing off, just that old man really shook me with his explosion. If I had not created a clone in the last second, so that he took on a large part of the blow, I would not have died, but I would definitely have been crippled. And even so, I still received heavy wounds, but his self-destruction allowed me to look at the highest kingdom anew. The highest. This old man used his life as a dynamite to demonstrate to me how the rules work. Very touching. I believe that in a few days I will be able to fully reach the highest kingdom. In the following days, the inhabitants of Tsingui celebrated as if the new year had come. The oppressive atmosphere of the past was completely dispersed on the streets and in the alleys. Everyone glorified the legend of the god of the sword from Tsingui, while the great god of the sword is here. Tsingui is not afraid of anything. Meanwhile, in the very depths of the wilderness to the northwest of Lungu, a dark figure sat on a bone throne, releasing a crushing aura, dozens of times more terrifying than that old man in a mask. Honored Heiapao in Tsingui HMF. Interesting. From the very council, in the valley of the god of the sword, I remained locked in the illusion of awakening, twisting the scene over and over again until the self-destruction of that old man. Seeing his death for the 28th time, I fully understood the power of the rules imprisoned in it. It was time for a breakthrough. I sealed all the space in the area of the villas. Fragments of the two great laws, lightning and wood, exploded in my palm with a stunning force. The sky roared like a dragon, and on the ground the dead tree regained its spring again, the auras of destruction and revival intertwined. I felt like they were trying to merge into one. This merger lasted all night, until the sun rose in the east. I slowly opened my eyes or did not yawn. At that moment in my body, a huge amount of spiritual energy was raging, as if the ocean was barren, far superior to everything that the semi-superior could ever cope with. I defend Tsingui, even God will not dare to touch it. I said so. Sayabe, seeing that my breakthrough was successful, immediately rushed to me and covered me with an avalanche of compliments, saying that I was more divine than the gods themselves. In the end, when the master becomes stronger, his family members also benefit from this. Following me, he definitely does not lose. Having quickly gathered, I returned to the library. Not that I particularly valued this work, just over time. It became for me something like the headquarters of the apartment, and as expected, I barely crossed the threshold when I came across Lura Yan, who was already waiting for me. Having listened to her detailed secret report, I was stunned. Obviously, everything was not that simple. This cult of the animal god turned out to be much larger than I imagined. They worship star animals as gods, and every wave of animals is directed by them to destroy the city of people. In addition, the cult itself is full of hidden talents, so that old man on the floor, the supreme one, was just one of their revered ones. And moreover, they have real masters of the supreme level in their ranks. After their failure in Tsingui, their attacks on the city and on me, the god of the sword, will definitely become even crazier. PFFF. You can still cope with the rest. But this is a gang that self-destructs at the slightest opportunity. I can't stand this. And in addition, this Antane, I can only hope that this dam system will throw me some sudden reward. I promised that he will definitely convey the message to the master, but when I saw how he climbed out of his skin, for my sake, my heart already shrank. Tonight you will come to me. So I'm your master. No, the master wants to tell you something. You will go alone after I finish my shift. Lurian immediately rejoiced as if a child. She said that she would go home to get well, and she hurried away. When I left the library, I did not expect to come across Lekin. Right after Lurian's departure, he was in complete shock from the battle of the god of the sword 2 days ago, and persistently loudly demanded a meeting with his great master. Not that I wanted to, I intended to complicate everything for him, but he is much more cunning than Lurian. If he reveals the deception, I will no longer have a day of rest. Seeing that I was standing on my own, Lekin took out a rare book from behind his sleeve. On the cover, 4 large hieroglyphs, HM. Dencho, something is wrong. I don't know why, but I have such a feeling, as if I have already heard these 4 somewhere. Glory. Quickly scrolling through it, I held my breath. This is for self-destruction. Oh, you are a fraud. You don't want anything good from me, do you? But suddenly I was dazzled, and my clone can self-destruct. If yes, then it's just brilliant. Lekin, your master will not stay with you for a long time. Here are several spiritual pills of the sentient level. Take them. Your teacher has an urgent matter. It's time for me to run. While realizing that he was fooled, Lekin snorted. This is frank infatuation over an honest person. I did not have time to blink an eye as the night came. Lajuane came to me with a bag of gifts. At that moment, I had already changed my appearance to become the god of Mekatsingui. I was in a hurry to go to the temple. My mother, it was worth seeing me, as she immediately collapsed on her knees. Teacher, there is nothing for your ceremonies. Teacher, why do you even wear a hat and a mask in the room? In the room, pray, do not interfere with the affairs of adults. Then she presented me her gift. In the box lay a 1,000-year-old spiritual mushroom, a 10,000-year-old snow ginseng and cordyceps, a whole collection of rare medicinal herbs, but among all this, the most impressive was a battle tunic, decorated with a pattern in the form of dragons, scarlet dragons. It was worth pouring at least an ounce of truth into it. The Tsai, like dragons, seemed to come to life and began to evolve. Good, good, very good. It was not in vain that I chose her as a student. You have reached the level of sentience. It's time for you to learn a new technique. Here, take this guidance and study it carefully at home. If you don't understand something, ask your older brother. From these words, Liu Jiang was out of her mind with joy. She fell on her knees again, thanks to me for the gifted technique. After she left, I plunged into the study of that Tian Dai Tun Shu. Having studied it from all sides, I found that the principle of it is actually very simple, as long as I do not dare to try it on my main body. And then, if I really explode, I will become a common laughingstock. With this thought, I materialized the clone of the god of blood. I reduced his combat power to 1.2 from the strength of my main body. Then I did not dare to pronounce it, even with a whisper. I could transfer the clone form only through telepathy. The body of the clone was immediately filled with blood. The golden light burst out of his mouth and nose. Fortunately, I had previously installed a protective barrier. Otherwise, my estate would have turned to ashes. This self-destruction is not easy. It is devastating for the enemy. He is also lightning fast. An opponent of the same level, if he reacts too slowly, he will be destroyed on the spot. The king against the king. King, you really gave your master a priceless treasure. The days went by one after another, and the time for the city of Tsaingyue was at an end, until one day in the gloomy afternoon, a light flash did not appear in the vicinity of the clan of deer. I opened my eyes sharply. In the distance, a wave of ferocious animals, like a tsunami, rushed to the city defense. A piercing ringing of alarming bells was heard. People instantly remembered the nightmare of 20 years ago, when they lived under the oppression of ferocious animals. At that moment, an animal torrent flowed. The great masters, who were in Tsaingyue, all gathered at the top of the fortress walls. There was a unit of the military police, armed to the teeth, and an academy of martial arts led by the old Master Li, as well as a crowd of independent warriors who came of their own free will to shed their blood for Tsaingyue and fight to the death. Some were foreigners from distant lands, lightning fast returning to their homeland. Others were of modest origin, but when the trouble came, they divided the burden of the great cause in the direction of the mountain chain, or a huge cloud of dust rose into the sky. The black stream was moving at full speed towards the city walls. The top of tens of thousands of creatures was given by a deaf, heavy thunder, making the earth tremble so that it was difficult to stand on its feet. The great masters, who were in Tsaingyue, all gathered at the top of the fortress walls. Fortress walls, the great masters who were in Tsaingyue, all gathered at the top of the fortress walls. The great masters who were in Tsaingyue, all gathered at the top of the fortress walls. Of their former lord, and gave them good tidings from the leader of to deliver a decisive blow from the tops of the fortified walls of hundreds of thermal. Shells were fired at the same time. The fireballs exploded into the thickest flocks, instantly crushing entire rows of creatures, but alas, there were too many of them. Under the scorching fire, they advanced without stopping, trampling the souls of their kin. Distance between the black stream and the walls was inexorably reduced, so the artillery battalion could not stop. Behind the walls, at the same time, a flame erupted. A gap appeared in the horde, but it was filled in a moment by a large number of creatures rushing forward, only low-level creatures. They die from artillery fire, and those that are stronger are already able to reduce damage to them, and the beasts of the royal rank can even take it in the forehead. They crossed the sea of fire, step by step approaching the defensive network of Tsaingyue. Smaller and more ferocious creatures have already reached the defensive barrier of the city. Everyone should prepare for a counterattack. Lidyomin and Starationally simultaneously activated their vital energy. The aura, sharp as a blade, was poured into the city barrier. Energy blades, like a hurricane, mowed the lives of creatures. The earth at the foot of the fortress walls instantly turned into a mess of flesh, blood, but in front of the face of the legion of monsters, it was only a drop in the sea. Other creatures, even more terrifying, were with a roar, with bodies covered with wounds. They carried, breaking their heads into the energy field, fiercely hitting their horned foreheads on the fortress walls. The defenders threw all their strength into battle, tirelessly fighting off the new creatures that broke through inside. This apocalyptic battle, intended to stop them, dragged on from sunset to deep night. The wounded fell one after another, but the newcomers arrived in their place, changing the fallen with an infinite stream. Outside in the wastelands, the souls of the star animals piled up in the mountains and flowed rivers of blood, turning this place into hell on earth. Suddenly the proud, victorious lions shook the wastelands. Several star animals of the royal rank, huge as mountains, rushed into attack, fiercely crashing into the city's defensive barrier. The next moment the sky and earth shuddered. The barrier's tone resembled the last breath of the dying. Being one of the commanders, Legiomen frowned. These are the creatures of the royal rank. Their defense was incredibly high. Even by uniting forces with the Elder Lay, it was difficult to break through their defense. If this continues, then the great formation will be broken in just a few, and so, at this critical moment, the police commander was holding a black mechanism in his hand. He aimed directly at the top of the giant beast, the Storm Needle. Having developed this gadget, I anonymously sent a large batch to the police. That's why I was so sure. And then the silver needles flew through the air with a whistle and pierced the monster's skull through. Its huge, like a mountain, body collapsed, crushing hordes of other creatures. The old lion froze in amazement. To kill the star beast of the royal rank with one blow, what a terrifying power. Healers, follow me. The commander's voice was hoarse. Following the route worked out during the exercises, he rushed to the southeast corner of the wall. After a few moments, everyone felt a crushing pressure. The furious giant beast stretched out his paw to tear the commander to pieces. The next moment, police officers appeared from ambush. Each of them held a black mechanism in his palm. Fire, fire! After this furious cry, the silver needles, as if pouring rain, rushed into the sky, crushing the skull of the giant beast of the royal rank. The next moment, the commander's voice was hoarse. Each of them held a black mechanism in his palm. After this furious cry, the silver needles, as if pouring rain, rushed into the sky, crushing the skull of the giant beast of the royal rank. After this furious cry, the silver needles, as if pouring rain, rushed into the sky, crushing the skull of the giant beast of the royal rank. What was left to be taken apart? Was it a man or a beast? The enthralled people muttered on the walls. The star beasts of the royal rank were eliminated. The remaining ordinary star beasts no longer pose a threat. Star Elite and Ladamine exchanged looks, and we worked well together. Meanwhile, the commander stood at the top of the wall, looking into the distant sky. For some unknown reason of feeling, the anxiety in the depths of his heart did not dissipate. Suddenly, on the border of the plain and the forest, a silhouette of a giant bird appeared, flying directly to the defensive outskirts of the city. The next moment there was a powerful sound strike. The third sector, the northwestern wall, all units, combat readiness. The being Mayamabit appeared in the moment of echo. The pressure emanating from it overwhelmed everyone in horror. The star beast of the imperial rank. With its appearance, a horde of animals which had already dispersed, gathered together again. It once again began a deadly assault on the walls. The beast waved its wings, and its feathers, sharp as a blade, with a meteor shower fell on the defensive barrier. The surface of the barrier was covered with cracks. At this critical moment, the blade of spiritual energy, the sky, soared, opening the heavenly gates. Lialian, in his white clothes, rushed for a cut with a sword in his hand. The head of the guard and Liking followed him directly. 3 against 1, they immediately entered a fierce fight with the Juking. Under the walls, the situation was no less critical. Strongly damaged barrier, trembled, and reports from the battlefield came without stopping. In the north there was an energy gap. 3 unknown animals are attacking from the northwest. Defensive formation under threat. From the whole detachment, only Ledamine remained, who from the last forces tried to hold the defense. If he falls, then the city is waiting for complete destruction, which will reach them. Suddenly his pupils narrowed. In the form of this heroic and unforgettable scene, several star dancers, as if speaking, rushed down from the fortress walls, using their bodies as bait to deceive animals from the defensive barrier. The goal was to weaken the huge pressure which turned out to be on the barrier, and although they were quickly absorbed by the horde, another wave immediately came to replace. Fearlessly facing death, who would have thought that the battle for defense of Xiangyue would be so cruel? However, the situation became even more hopeless. 7 This golden star beast possessed protection. Capable of competing with the protection of the Great Master at the peak, his forces, 3 silhouettes in the sky, were thrown back and collapsed on the fortress walls. 8 Leruin and Lysin, covered with blood, heavily wounded, collapsed to the ground. And what about the chief of the guard? Then he was brutally torn off his hand. At that moment, Xiangyue's defense was almost completely destroyed. Everyone froze. Despair was felt on all faces. One of the dancers suddenly fell on his knees, his face was filled with tears. "Divine Master of the Sword, I beg you, save us," one after another. More and more young dancers went down on their knees, as if praying to their god for a miracle. Even the old Lee was enraged and closed his eyes. 9. In the air, Tsukin did not show the slightest pity in the form of this scene. A bloody bath was about to begin, and when he was about to wave his wings, his gaze caught a purple flash. A purple light pierced him, a skull in a split second. Carrying with him the destructive force, she smashed Tsukin from the inside. With a deft clap he exploded, turning into a cloud of bloody fog. "So you still decided to show yourself." Almost at the same moment a terrifying voice was heard, "And I finally lured you out." The divine spirit of the sword Sangyue, discovered by the master of the imperial level. 3 Run, if life is a road, a dark silhouette, enveloped in black smoke. In an instant the Ichor appeared in the sky. It was from him that the very aura that I was so afraid of came out. Without the slightest delay, I rushed to heaven, but the priest from the cult of the god-beast followed me. "Give me your contract with the divine maiden and conquer the cult, and then this priest, if possible, will allow me to leave your miserable life for you." I turned around sharply. The art of the sword which cuts through the heavens. Yue's divine sword broke out of its scabbard. I was hopping to catch it in the open, but this blade, so powerful and impregnated with the power of the laws, was easily stopped by one hand of this silhouette. His 5 fingers clung tightly to it. The aura of the sword flew away in a trill. When I looked at it again, the huge red bell soared behind his back, and letting out a glow, it broke out of him, directing the powerful laws of the universe. My heart missed the blow, so it means that the highest kingdom has its own steps. Beyond the limits of the highest kingdom, there is still the earthly supreme and heavenly supreme, and this man in black should be at least the rank of the highest emperor. Not improving on the way to see me, it doesn't matter what to watch the moon from the bottom of the well, but even improving on the way to see me, for a pitiful ant, it doesn't matter what to look at the celestial vault. The next moment the Reverend lowered his palm. A strange ringing broke out of the bell, from which the heart began to squeeze madly. Blood boiled in my whole body, threatening to break free from the flesh, enduring the painful pain. I quickly folded the seal with my fingers. The 7 stars of the Great Bear are in resonance. The magical star structure immediately materializes right above the Reverend's head in order to fix it and destroy it. But the Reverend, with one movement of his hand, calls the law of blood. The bloody glow rushes upward, against the flow. It pierces the heavens and crumbles the structure. The star, turning it into ashes, did not have time to remember how the Reverend in an instant turns out to be in front of me and strikes with his palm. I am thrown horizontally, right above the cloud's purple and red waves, constantly colliding. Even in perfection, possessing the divine sword of Zioa, I cannot stop his onslaught. So after just a few breaths, my body turned into ruins. As far as strength is concerned, the ratio is somewhere between 30 and 70. In 3 minutes he will tear me to pieces, seeing how he becomes more and more superior. I understand that the time has come. I put the sword in the scabbard, and the power of art, cutting through the heavens, breaks out again. Only this time I rush to the Reverend, together with Zenon. In that very moment, when he wipes Zenon's powder with one wave of his hand, my thought voice is heard in his ears. "I wish you to live as long as the heavens." The next second, my eyes flash with a color similar to that of the sun. This is a deception. Fear instantly overtakes the mind of the Reverend. The highest being, self-proclaimed to the point. Even he cannot cope with this. The second is the explosion of heavenly longevity. The third, emptiness collapses, and the true Yuehang of 10,000 armies is completely poured into the body of the Reverend, in the middle of the night, as if the sun was hot. It was born to explode immediately. A shock wave sweeps away the clouds. Even the city of Sangyue, which is 10,000 meters below, was not spared. The apocalyptic storm raged for an uncertain time. Almost all the clouds that covered the sky were turned to ashes. The city's protective barrier, hiding the inhabitants for the last time, completely fell apart. But this did not bother anyone anymore. Hot ashes circled in the air and fell from the sky. People were eagerly looking for at least some traces of their god's sword, the old one. Feeling the residual aura in the sky, he seemed to have aged for 10 years. There was nothing left at all. The Reverend God of the Sword and this evil demon died. Together, Liliane collapsed to the ground. With an empty look, she could not accept this blow. Lakin cried bitterly. He finally met his great teacher, but this meeting became a farewell for him. Lakin, I did not expect that you would have such a trick in the sleeve, and in truth, the one who self-destructed was just my spiritual body. Only this spiritual body contained 90% of my power of improvement. His self-destruction will weaken me for a long time, but in the end, we won this round. Yes, Lakin helped a lot in this. Suddenly, I frown, remembering something important. System, are you dead or something? Hey, damn it. System, where is my super gift, damn it? Master, you managed to seriously injure the Supreme Emperor with the help of a simple clone. Seriously, I advise you not to be such a cheater. Congratulations, Master, Lakin. You received the highest treasures of the Rentea, the Palace of Longevity. I feel a bittersweet satisfaction. Yes, finally, the divine equipment. But remembering the words of the system, I suddenly realize one important detail. Seriously injure so he did not die. Meanwhile, the forces of defense of the city are engaged in clearing the blockages. In a secluded corner, a stream of black blood seeps from under the ground. He instantly took possession of a new body. Fortunately, I had a trump card in my sleeve. All I have to do is restore my strength, and not a single inhabitant of this city will survive. Feeling this wave, the bloody ice mine and the rest rushed to the scene. Horror froze on their faces. They could not imagine that even the sacrifice of the master of Xiantian, who went to self-destruction, was not enough to defeat this demon. Xian, a tiger, even wounded, is still a tiger. He is only a few with one wave of his hand. He scattered them on the ground, leaving them in a deplorable state. At that moment, when they were on the verge of death, a bright ray of light, like a falling star, pierced the night darkness and peeped, with surgical accuracy, right in the skull. The incandescent heat instantly turned him into nothing, but he lived almost never like he's living now. He didn't even have dust from him. He lived almost never like he's living now. He was like water, like dust that dust as dust. He believed. The altars in memory of Jianqin and Xiangyue. In fact, my death is not so bad. She will put an end to my showdown with the cult of the god beast, which saved us from Xiangyue from many troubles after everything that happened. Liu Yuan began a lonely practice. The loss of the teacher was a terrible blow to her. She vowed to exterminate the cult of the beastly god to avenge him, and I did. But most grievously, I fell into the limits of my being, into the limits of my hesitation, and I knew that someone else would come to save me. I knew that there was no future for me. And how could I face the Andes, where I was a slave of the god beast for 10 years? Nobody would ever help me, and I could not even as he guessed. And then he laid out his conclusions to me. When the horde of animals appeared, your revered teacher was in danger, and you did not even dare to show yourself. You just recently showed me the technique of the longevity of heaven and earth, and immediately after that Jian Cheng sacrificed himself. Moreover, you not only do not mourn the death of your teacher, but you still have time to come to the palace. All these evidence proves that the great Jian Cheng did not really die. This whole chain of conclusions deprived me of the gift of speech. Realizing that I could not deny it anymore, I reluctantly admitted, and you are quite sensible. To buy his silence, I gave him a simplified version of the formation of the 7 stars of the Great Bear. At the same time, I convinced him that this was a reward from his great teacher. After all, out of joy, he swore to me, putting his hand on his heart, that he would never reveal this secret. In the following days, I remained in the illusion of awakening, realizing before the bow of the piercing sun my possession. The laws of fire and the laws of space became more and more skillful. After I pulled the bow 1,000 times, a thin layer of energy of the sword began to come out of my body and swirl around me. After I continuously saturated it with this energy, I suddenly pulled the bow to the limit. Yes, my fingers, it seemed, turned into a naked divine blade. When the arrow was released, it crushed the universe. It even created a black hole in the void. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Weapons of this rank are truly something exceptional. Let's call this technique a sword that opens the gates of heaven. I thought that I would be able to develop imperceptibly in order to then amaze everyone. But the arrival of an uninvited guest again dragged me into a new whirlpool of events. That day afternoon, a middle-aged man came out of the terminal from Xiangyue. 3 grey hair, an extraordinary aura, but the most striking was the heavy bow that he carried behind his back. It was the divine sword of the High Alliance, Yuichuan. The High Alliance is the most powerful faction in the Imperial City. Initially, they brought a bloody oath to the cult of God, the beast, swearing not to interfere in each other's affairs. But a few days ago, the Honorable Emperor, Suzaku of the cult of the god beast, was killed by the arrow of the mysterious killer in Xiangyue, and under the heavens there is only one master archer of this caliber, Ushuan, so the suspicion, of course, fell on him. The arrival of Liu Ushuan in Xiangyue caused a real earthquake. The authorities hurried to greet him, but Liu Ushuan completely ignored them. He arrived in Xiangyue for only one reason: to find the god of the sword from Xiangyue. Looking at the headlines that my phone was flashing with, I could not contain my contempt. During the invasion of the beasts, there was no trace of them, and now, when his reputation was at stake, he immediately announced himself. But suddenly there was a systematic alarm. An expert of the imperial level was found heading to you. There is still time to escape. This guy has to live another 500 years. Interestingly, an evil smile appeared on my face. All kinds of tricks to break it and receive rewards immediately came to my mind. The formidable aura of incredible power covered the surroundings. Such a tiny town as Xiangyue sheltered two higher beings. Even a fool will guess that they are familiar. I am the great disciple of the god of the sword. It is not surprising that I became his goal. Yuichuang appeared in the sky above the estate. Speak 3. What is the relationship between your teacher and the god of the sword from Xiangyue? Having listened to his version, I roughly understood what the point was. Isn't he the perfect match in this situation? However, it seems that this Xiangyue has no evil intentions. On the one hand, he wants to whitewash his name with the other. He is very interested in the duel between the masters. Well, let's see how I get him around my finger. The god of the sword from Xiangyue, whom you are looking for, is none other than my combat uncle. Tell your combat uncle that I, Yuichuang, am calling him to fight at Lake Klesh in Xiangyue in 3 days at dawn. Qin Yan, having heard this, was surprised for a moment, but did not panic. On the contrary, he was even pleasantly surprised. It was impossible, by the way. The system just gave me a notification, but I did not have the opportunity to speak. And now, when Yuichuang himself challenged, it saved me from unnecessary trouble. The fight is in 3 days when the time comes. If I manage to break it, will I not be able to receive the ideal reward from the system? You asked for it yourself. With this thought, Keningochi nodded and folded his hands in a sign of respect. Do not worry, senior. I will certainly pass the message to my uncle Marshall. However, there is something that I must warn you about. To be honest, the tone of Qin Yan has changed dramatically. Whether he comes or not will depend only on his will, so you better prepare. However, as you wish. Li Aoshan took off his mysterious bow. He held it with 2 fingers on his surface, and said carelessly, as soon as the message is conveyed, all this will no longer concern him.